everybody to think back a couple of presentations to Courtney and Whitney a little bit, and especially Elise, because they all basically said, if you think about it, the exact same thing. And I'm going to say the same thing because I wrote my paper on rumba, which Elise showed a fancy, like, appropriated ballroom rumba, which is actually the reason that I picked this topic, because I started ballroom dancing this semester and rumba was one of my favorite dances, but I didn't know anything about the music, and I, plunked it into YouTube and decided I was gonna listen and like see a real rumba, and I was blown away because they're absolutely nothing alike. And the reason for that is that in Cuba, rumba is a folklore kind of thing. Like if you ask somebody what their favorite kind of folklore dance is, they'll say rumba. And they see it as something that is not, like, it's kind of got all the connotations that go along when you hear the word folklore. So it's older, it's simpler, it's country. And what I found was that rumba is a drum music. It's meant to highlight the drummers, and it's made up of a drum chorus and sometimes a singer, but mostly drummers. And the dance that is associated with it is a secular dance. It's got nothing to do with holding your partner like this and slow, quick. A lot of the times the partners are actually separate, which is a very African way to dance, is to separate and come back and separate again. And that separation and coming back together in the dance is reflected in the call and response of the music, which you all took this class. Call and response is the big, African music buzzword. And so that kind of Africanism was brought over by the slaves in Cuba, but it was also helped out in the improvisational aspect by Spanish culture. And a lot of Spanish folklore music has a lot of improvisation and a little bit of call and response in it as well. And those two cultures are what really define the rumba music as sort of a Cuban national identity. And the way I phrased it in my paper was that it was this dichotomous kind of relationship where they wanted it to be Spanish because it was white, but they wanted it to be African because they were just as black as they were white. But at the same time, they looked down on those of African descent. If you were middle class, you looked down on those of African descent because they were poor. And that whole business of, simultaneously appreciating blackness and Africanism, while at the same time, kicking them while they're down, was something that not only happened in Cuba and defined like the Cuban national identity, but also I think was a trend that we found in a lot of the other music that we've studied. And the big one being tango, because everybody remembers that one because it was the last one we did. But also a little bit of what Whitney, you're not Whitney, you're Courtney. Courtney mentioned the same thing, and that was the big conclusion that I came to when I was writing this paper, was that the importance of African influence, not only to Cuban national identity, but to a lot of other Latin American nations, is what is really like the overarching theme of Latin American music, and I think rumba is just one of the best examples. And that is all.
Right.